This story begins in a cozy family cafeteria, where young couples and families come for a delicious meal. But our hero named Yu-ilshin came here for inspiration. Since he has a creative profession, he is a web novel writer. He sat for some time with a blank sheet of paper on the screen. He still could not start writing, although he is about to have to hand in his work. He tried to concentrate, but he turned his attention to the phone, as a message arrived on it. Taking the phone in his hands, he decided that it would be better to delete unnecessary applications so that they would not interfere with him. While deleting another application, he noticed one that he had not downloaded. Surprisedly, he thought to himself what kind of application this was. He decided to open it. A loading screen appeared in front of him. The screen read, "Welcome to God Maker." After the game loaded, an ant appeared on the screen. The hero was surprised to see an ant here. Then text appeared on the screen. The hero was outraged by the quality of the game. He was not happy with how crookedly the text was made. What kind of crooked game is this? The main character wondered. After looking at the screen for a short time, he still decided to try, due to the fact that he had nothing else to do. The hero pulled his finger towards the screen and, clicking on the ant, the game began to load. The game has begun. The action takes place on some planet in the middle of the galaxy. The main character fought bravely. Ants are like monsters. But he decided to use the crushing index finger of God technique. Thanks to this technique, all enemies were defeated. At least that's what our hero thought. And from behind he was attacked by a monster that was larger than the previous ones. This one was muscular and had horns like a bull and big teeth like a dragon. This creature decided that it could crush the main character. And with all my rage, with all my weight, I decided to just jump on him. But our hero turned out to be smarter and faster, and was able to avoid the blow in time. The bully was very unhappy. You could hear him filled with anger from his growl. This time, our hero decided to use the middle, condemning finger of God. The monsters looked at him in bewilderment. They stood and did nothing, which was in vain for them. After all, at that very second, they all began to burn with a bright flame. Everyone was buried alive. All that was left of them was ashes. The main character, walking through fire and haze, decides to restore his powers using the god's restorative ring finger. But he still had to fight the boss. It looked like a dragon, but without wings. He had many legs, like a caterpillar, and he had 6 eyes. Huge jagged fangs protruded from its mouth and some kind of green liquid was dripping. The main character took out a sword that glowed with blue flame. But a caterpillar-like dragon began to attack him. To which the main character waved his sword. The story moves to the writer's room, where his laptop is. On the laptop was the inscription, "Attention, the author is taking a break for personal reasons." His phone was ringing off the hook with letters from dissatisfied customers. In a very rude manner, they expressed their dissatisfaction because the hero decided to take a break while playing the game, deciding that the main character no longer needed money. "Guys, I'm trying to save the world here, maybe you'll feel sorry for me?" The main character answered all the dissatisfied customers. And with the words, "Let the show begin," he entered the game again. His name was Yu-ilshin. One day, a gate appeared in the sky, and terrifying dungeons opened up underground. Demonic creatures burst out of strange new formations into the outside world. Humanity is beset by a disaster the likes of which have never existed. However, the emergence of hunters with abilities equal to those of the monsters turned disaster into opportunity. From the corpses of monsters, they extracted divine energy and materials that gave humanity another chance. Hunters were divided into classes, from G to SSS. The abilities of a G class were not much different from those of an ordinary person. Once a hunter's class was determined, changes occurred extremely rarely. The story begins with a young girl passing by a poster titled, "The Hunter Who Will Save the World." "We are waiting for you," she looked at him. One could observe a certain fatigue in her eyes, as if this was not the first time she had come across such a poster, and she sighed with a heaviness on her chest. She looked at the papers she held in her hands. This was an application for a retake. There was her photograph, name, address, abilities and class. This was already her 10th retake, and the girl still couldn't pass the test a grade higher. Increasingly irritated that all her training was in vain, she walked further with a backpack on her back. A male voice came from behind her asking, "Excuse me, are you okay?" Turning around, the girl thought that maybe this was another fan who decided to find out her rank. She felt popular. The guy who addressed her stood in bewilderment. Sweat ran down his cheek. "Do not misunderstand me. I usually don't do this," said the guy. The girl tensed up and began to get angry, thinking that he was a pervert, clenching her fist and accumulating the energy of her ability. Then a ringtone came from this guy's bag. Apologizing for the sudden call, he hurriedly reached into his bag and began to actively look for the source of the call. Having finally taken the phone out of his bag, seeing the culprit of the call, the guy got excited, said that he needed to answer the call, and ran as fast as he could. The girl, standing near the reception desk, did not understand what it was and how it could be explained. Then the worker behind the reception desk approached her and called her number 49 and the girl's name Song Miri-nim and asked her to go to the examination room. Having received the results, Song Miri-nim left the building, simultaneously studying the information that was provided to her. When she saw the result, she was very upset. It remained unchanged, still the same class B+. Clutching a piece of paper in her hand, the heroine of this chapter was very disappointed with herself, because she expected that she deserved more, but her empty and soulless gaze simply looked at the ground, her breathing and pulse quickened. At some point, an emergency message arrived on the phone. On Sangdonggu Street, Seoul, a gate opened and a spiked bull came out. "We ask all nearby hunters of A-class and above to report to the combat zone." And here the story is transferred directly to the scene of events. Where, right from the scene of events in the center of Sungong-gu Park, they are reporting where a suddenly appearing demonic beast is rampaging. While the residents suffer, unable to escape, the hunters hole up in their luxurious mansions. The reporter tells all this, where a terrible thing is happening behind her. A thorny bull is destroying everything around him, and people, scared to the bones, are running as far as possible and as quickly as possible. According to current information, a spiked bull has emerged from the rift. If this is true, then we are up against a demonic beast that can single-handedly destroy an entire city. "Scared," says the reporter. Here, in the crowd of frightened and running people, there appears the same guy who is trying to escape, holding a little girl's hand. People running past knock a little girl off her feet. The guy, picking her up, asks, "Song Young, are you okay?" "Why yes," she answered fearfully. Frightened Song Yun looked behind the guy, deciding to turn around. He saw a thorny bull behind him. He was filled with rage, he growled right at them. Out of nowhere, a lightning storm hits the demonic creature. It turned out to be Dream Miri-nim. Turning around, the bull was not harmed in any way by this, he only snorted with displeasure. "Let's see if you're okay after this." Deciding to try a second time, Dream Miri-nim gathered all the scylla and inflicted a lightning storm. The place where the beast was shrouded in thick dust. The girl peered intently with the hope that everything worked out. The beast jumped out and clouds of dust hit her directly and threw them several meters away in a wave, simultaneously smashing the entire road into smithereens. Covered in bruises and beatings, the girl, getting up, realized that the A-class beast was on a completely different level. She saw a guy with a little girl. There are still people here, she thought, this is dangerous. She gave up and told them to run away. She doesn't know how long she can hold him off, but they have to run away. And she herself, taking all her strength and courage into her fist, went against the bull alone. But then a big problem awaited her, her strength weakened. She fell to her knees and began repeating the words Mom and Dad. She became absorbed in herself. There were destroyed houses and haze in the background. She couldn't leave it like that. Staring at the ground, she cried and said, I will destroy all these creatures. There was a woman standing behind her. The woman turned to Songmiri and told her not to even think about something like revenge. At that moment, a scream full of pain rang out in Songmiri's head. She ordered the monster not to joke with her. Gathering all his strength and using the crushing index finger of God, the heroine released a storm. All the anger, all the pain and suffering that was in her soul turned into physical strength, which went against the demonic monster. People were surprised, they thanked Songmiri for saving them. She was surrounded by both ordinary people and reporters who live broadcast about the amazing news. A B-class hunter, the Lightning Empress, defeated an A-class demonic beast. People shouted that they loved her and asked for her autograph. The girl herself stood in confusion, unable to comprehend the fact that she had defeated the thorny bull. The heroine felt as if she had exceeded her limit. A guy with a little girl approached her. Frightened and in tears, he thanked her. He addressed her as the dream of Miri Ssa. And he asked how he could repay him for this. To which Songmiri replied that everything was fine. I'm glad everything is fine with you, the heroine answered. Thank you very much, the little girl thanked her savior. After saying goodbye to the heroine, the guy and girl began to leave. But the heroine suddenly realized that the guy addressed her by name. How could he know her name, since no one could know her real name? Voice in my head. It is he, said the girl. But the question of who this guy was still remained open. This place is the most popular among suicides. But he's not here to commit suicide. Quite the opposite. After all, he could have died, but he, that little girl, his niece, could have died with him. Memories of a demonic creature flashed through his head. All this because of a stupid phone. Raising his hand, the guy decided to throw the phone off the bridge into the water. It's all because of him, the phone attracts bad luck. A few days ago. This story begins in a cozy family cafeteria, where young couples and families come to have a tasty meal. But our hero named Yu Ilshin came here for inspiration. Since he has a creative profession, he is a web novel writer. He sat for some time with a blank sheet of paper on the screen. He still could not start writing. Although he is about to have to hand in his work. He tried to concentrate. But he turned his attention to the phone, as a message arrived on it. Taking the phone in his hands, he decided that it would be better to delete unnecessary applications so that they would not interfere with him. While deleting another application, he noticed one that he had not downloaded. Surprisedly, he thought to himself what kind of application this was. He decided to open it. A loading screen appeared in front of him. The screen read, "Welcome to the creator of the gods." After the game loaded, an ant appeared on the screen. The hero was surprised to see an ant here. Then text appeared on the screen. The hero was outraged by the quality of the game. He was not happy with how crookedly the text was made. What kind of crooked game is this? The main character wondered. After looking at the screen for a short time, he still decided to try, due to the fact that he had nothing else to do. The hero pulled his finger towards the screen and clicked on the ant, and the ant died. How a coin flies out of the phone and bounces off the hero's forehead. A message appeared on the screen. Number 1 was crushed to death. As a reward, 1 god coin, darkness, was received. You are now 1 step closer to becoming evil. God, greedy for power and authority. The hero didn't understand, had he just awakened the hunter's abilities? If something like this had happened 20 years ago, you would have been immediately thrown into a psychiatric hospital. However, the world is no longer what it always was. Number 369, Mr. Uilshin. The girl at the reception desk shouted. Why did you have to shout out my name? The hero thought indignantly, while the sitting guys behind him laughed and said that they would have to post it on Instagram. Congratulations. The test shows that you have awakened as a hunter. The girl behind the counter joyfully congratulated our hero. Pleasantly surprised, the hero began to mentally fly in his dreams, where he was like a superhero and most girls wanted to spend time with him. He didn't count on the A-class, but at least the D-class, or not, even the E-class would suit him, and Uilshin could quit and become a hunter. You are G-class. The girl said happily. The guy was upset, because he was counting on more. As you can see, your ability is to create matter. This is your unique ability, Mr. Uilshin. So, he is G-class, and practically no different from an ordinary person. He was offered to become a hunter. The hero asked how much it cost, to which he was told 280,000 won. When asked about registration, Uilshin refused. Because there is not a single dungeon that he could enter being G-class. So why would he spend his money on some piece of paper? What did I expect? I think I'll go home and finish the web novel chapter. He said. One day, on some Thursday at 2 o'clock in the morning, the hero was sitting at his laptop. Wondering what, he bet 5 hours of his life, the hero decided to take a break and watch TV. He came across a news channel 6, Today. C-class hunter Baek Yu-hyun began clearing out the disaster-level dungeon Dark Dragon Dungeon. He just came out victorious. Thus, humanity has become one step closer to salvation. Fascinating and tempting temptation. A tool without which the C-class hunter Song Min does not go to the dungeons. The only choice to protect your skin. After that, the hero could not stand it and turned off the TV. Hunters of C rank have already gotten to him, they are this, they are that. Uilshin hates them. He lay down on his bed with his laptop on his lap. Deciding to just go to bed. How a notification came to his phone. The hero was outraged why, as soon as he decided to rest, notifications started ringing on his phone. It was a notice from that game. Taking the phone in his hands, Uilshin began to press the ants repeatedly and angrily. The whole room began to shower with coins. The story continues in the morning. The hero lies listlessly on the bed. As he gets up, he notices that there were more coins. Taking the coin in his hands, he sees that the denomination has changed from 1 to 100. A message from that game arrived on his phone. Congratulations, Mr. Nameless God. You have fulfilled all the conditions to open a god shop. A window popped up in front of him where he had to answer, yes or no. Deciding that we won't know until we try, I clicked yes. The story is transferred to some kind of meeting room or meeting. At the entrance, where there are 2 guards in suits. In the hall itself there were 2 tables, at which sat people in suits. They were heatedly discussing something. Between the 2 tables stood the same man in a suit and said, "Would like to thank the President, the head of the Hunters Association and many other important guests from the world of politics and business for coming today. Despite their busy schedule, our country finally has a hunter who has opened a hunter's store. Isn't this awakened ability rare, even among creator-type hunters? We will finally be able to purchase items and skills that go beyond our classes." 2 men were discussing. Then a guy and a girl enter the hall. He is a C-class hunter-type creator, Kong Woo, who unlocked the hunter store. And she, a C-class telepath-type hunter, Song Ming, arrived to hold the auction. At the main table sat President Chung Hae-won of the Republic of South Korea. "I would like to thank the President, the head of the Hunters Association, and many other important guests from the world of politics and business for coming today despite their busy schedules. In our country there is finally a hunter who has a hunter's store, the people at the table discussed vigorously and joyfully. 2 people entered the hall. A guy in glasses with shaking hands asked to show the hunter's store. Everyone froze and watched with interest the activation of the store. There was a bright flash and wind appeared in the hall. All the documents scattered throughout the hall, people covered their hands and closed their eyes. When it was all over, the president indicated that he saw nothing but a commotion. This was confirmed by his guard. The guy with glasses noted, "Please, calm. The store can only be seen by the person who activated it. Now we will use Mina's dream telepathy ability to show it to everyone." And a store appeared in the middle of the hall. It contained a high-grade potion, the holy sword Excalibur, and the blessing of the lightning god. Everyone stood with their mouths open and admired what they saw. There were all the objects they had heard about in myths and legends. It was a hunter's store. The lightning god's blessing costs 3 billion gold. It's 3 billion won. Then the president spoke, and everyone fell silent. Keep this in mind when you decide to say something. The fate of the country depends on our choice. Therefore, until the project is fully launched, keep everything secret. Mr. Kong Wu needs at least 2 C-class hunters as guards. The story returns to Yu Ilshan's room. An inscription appeared on his screen that God's store was available to him. I didn't think for long before he decided to agree to its activation. To activate the God's store, you need 100 coins. Do you want to use them? The hero, of course, chose yes. 1 coin has disappeared. Before this, only these coins appeared, but maybe our hero is a creator-type hunter like Kong Wu? The difference between Kong Wu C-class and Yu Ilshan G-class is like between heaven and earth. But what if he manages to earn some money? After opening the God's store, most of the positions and skills appeared there. Everything cost a lot of money, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. And the hero earned only 300 coins during the night. When suddenly the positions on the screen began to rotate on their own and suddenly stopped. On some skill that only cost 100 coins. Yu Ilshan decided to buy it. This turned out to be the ability of the unknown god, which can be with the help of strong wind. You will not be able to recognize the truth even if it is right in front of your eyes. The hero was outraged. What kind of special ability is this? It causes blindness. How can a blind eye be useful? The guy is blind. He dropped his phone and lost his balance. Not understanding anything, he frightenedly tried to understand what was happening. He was looking for his phone. He had to be somewhere near the bed, trying to feel for it somewhere. Suddenly hitting your little finger on the foot of the bed. The guy falls and screams in pain all the obscene phrases in the world. Oh. I see again. The hero noticed in surprise. The frightened guy crawls to the phone and takes it in his hands. Now, he could read everything that was written there. There was a lot of skill on screen. The exclusive right of the demonic god is the flame of hell, the exclusive technique of summoning the demonic, summon the planetary devourer. Regression in time and space. All this cost space coins, from 2 million to 10 billion. The names, of course, were not without 8th grader syndrome. Then the hero noticed the most expensive skill. It was called the creation of heaven and earth. The guy was surprised at the price. He felt like the main character from some mediocre novel. Although the owner of the G-class will remain so until his death. But the S-classes will live and die like the S-class. Although, I think someone said that there may be exceptions. Deciding that we needed to see everything that our main character could buy. The first there was the crushing finger of God. Without thinking twice, Yu Ilshan finally bought it, since it was the only thing he could afford. You have acquired the crushing god index finger. He wondered what this skill, the crushing god finger, did. Behind him, he noticed the air conditioner turn on. Using the crushing finger of God on the TV, it turned on. It was a stupid remote control. Trying different techniques using the god's index finger, our hero came to the conclusion that, as he thought, it does not write novels. Then his phone rang. The incoming call said Almighty Director. The guy picked up the phone and said, "Hello," in a frightened voice. There was great delight from the other end of the line. The director noticed that it turned out very funny. He did not expect this from our hero. Although the guy didn't have that opinion, because he just wrote about his last days, so he didn't find it funny. The plot is excellent. He has great potential. But unfortunately, there is one big problem, said the director. Our hero asked what exactly the problem was and confidently stated, whatever it was, he would solve it immediately. The whole problem is in the next chapter. I still haven't seen the next chapter in my inbox. The director answered, expressing his emotions as much as possible and repeating how cool it turned out, simultaneously asking when the next chapter will be released. 3 days, no, give me 2 days. I'll write it and send it to you by email, Ilshin replied and hung up. Our guy came to the conclusion that killing ants in a game creates content in itself. I was simultaneously entering the game at this moment. Entering the game with the words, "I don't hold it against you, really." He began to furiously press the ants, the very thing for which he was given coins. In a short period of time, the hero had already collected 100 coins. This seemed very little, because the items cost millions, and even the cheapest one cost 1,000 coins. Blessing of the god of growth, a low-class god, this skill was worth 1,000 coins. The hero continued to collect coins in order to buy this skill. He was interested in the word growth in the name of this skill. Furiously continuing to click on the ants, an ant comes across that has evaded the place where the hero was clicking. This angered the hero. He thought that it was some kind of boss. He continued to press, but he still dodged. This angered Ilshin so much that he began to press with all his might. Having finally crushed this and the rest of the ants, a sign appeared in the game. The karma of the nameless god has exceeded 800 units. If you get another 200 karma points, you can receive the title of the golden god, striving for strength and power. After receiving the title you will be given a reward. The guy was already so tired that he wanted to sleep. Time flew by instantly and the clock showed 3 o'clock in the morning. He fell asleep on the bed with the phone in his hand, and this was most likely a mistake, because he randomly activated the blind eye of God. An inscription appeared on the screen. The nameless god is pursuing his special victim number 404. The hero seemed to be sleeping. He found himself in a cinema, completely alone. Suddenly there was a flash and the guy just stared at the wall. But here the story moves to the desert, where absolutely one creature walks through it. He wondered if this was the power of the black tribe's god. He tried to kill me, sacrificed his followers. His sins make him more of a demon than a god. And I don't have much time left. I must tell my comrades everything. I must tell my comrades everything, said the ant-like monster. Wandering through the desert, an ant-like creature entered a cave. There was some kind of inscription on the floor in a language incomprehensible to humans. It took out the sword and placed it on the ground. Opening the doors, it entered the room where brothers like it were sitting. They sat and ate something hungry. When it entered the room, everyone dropped their forks and turned their attention to it. Hitting the sword on the ground, it spoke. It found out where all their food went, but they were all destroyed by the god of the black tribe. It was a terrible beast, and it miraculously managed to escape. They all had to do something before this monster attacked them. All his brothers started humiliating him and making fun of him. Shame on the great empire. they said proudly. They laughed at the words that the god of the black tribe could be a monster. And that if he lost to his prey, he had to lie there. The main monster entered the room. In appearance, he was older and wiser than all of them. He had a long, thick, gray beard. He came in shouting for everyone to shut up. The wanderer sat on a column and paid tribute to the great shaman. The shaman addressed him as Mr. 808. He noted that he felt the presence of the evil being that 404 mentioned. Now this is the territory of His Majesty, the great emperor. How can an evil god be on their holy lands? They must destroy it immediately. The wanderer was grateful to the sage for believing him. The shaman, with the help of an unknown force, begins to heal the wanderer's wounds. Having healed him, the shaman told him to lead everyone into battle, because he himself wants to destroy this evil spirit. Everyone supported the shaman. Raising their paws, everyone began to shout in support. They were ready to follow the shaman, although initially they did not believe the wanderer. They shouted death to the wicked. The story moves to the main character's room. He woke up with sweat on his face and rapid breathing. The guy was scared by the dream was too real. In addition to fear, the hero experienced the unknown, due to a lack of understanding of what it was. Or did he have a dream about ants, or did the ants dream about him? Yu Ilshin entered the game. There was that same 808. Which dodged his presses. He challenged the main character. The hero was full of ambition and decided that today he would definitely finish him off. A lot of ants have appeared in the game. The shaman from the dream was there too. On the screen was the inscription "Nature denies evil." Then a blue beam was launched from the hero's phone, aimed at the guy. "To hurt the evil god, you are truly a sage," said 808 to the shaman. "His Majesty will definitely be pleased. After this campaign, the ants will celebrate their victory with the Holy Virgin herself." At least that's what they thought. Then a strange force fell upon the ants. The sage ordered everyone to flee, and death overtook everyone. The hero started hitting the phone with his fists, furiously one after another he continued to hit the screen, successfully destroying all the ants. The hero was upset, because out of anger he broke his phone. An inscription appeared on the screen that the hero received the title of an evil god. Having smashed his phone to pieces, the hero, sitting on the bed, looks around the room. The whole room was covered in coins. Blood dripped from the hero's forehead. He looked at the screen. It said that the nameless god's karma had reached 1,000 points. The hero received the title of an evil god. Titus of the Brutal Killer, which is awarded after receiving 1,000 karma points. Due to the title effect, the nameless god's luck will be increased in subsequent battles. Yu Ilshin was surprised. He smiled why he was awarded the titles of an evil god and a cruel killer. He is the kindest in the world. The coins on the floor began to collect again, and among the coins lay some kind of ring. The hero, taking this ring with surprise, began to examine it. He decided to smell it. It was the smell of the forest. The guy was completely immersed in the atmosphere of the forest. The smell was so pleasant. The hero considered this the best anti-stress in the world, just like phytoncides, active substances that kill or suppress the growth and development of pathogenic bacteria. Having decided to put on the ring, the hero is immersed in a green glow. He was filled with strength. The fatigue disappeared as if by hand. It's like being born again. Something came through the phone again. The guy looked towards the phone angrily. It was the blind eye of the god that was activated, and the analysis of the ring began. The ring that the hero found was the druid's ring, which number 808 always carried with him. It contains the life force of the giant forest. Finally the hero got lucky. He wondered if the eye of the blind god worked, looking towards the laptop and TV on other things. The hero focused on the TV. The eye of God began to analyze. A sign with its data appeared next to the TV. It was indicated there that this was Yu Ilshin's TV, it had been in use for 1 year. And also a note that there are 3 months left until the end of the warranty. Next, the hero turned his attention to the laptop, where the same sign appeared. Used for 1 year and 2 months. Note, there are 6 months left until the warranty expires. Same for the bed. Has been in use for 10 years. Note, why don't you just throw it away? Okay, maybe that's enough fooling around, the hero decided. It seems that he is beginning to realize everything that is happening. Stop, the hero thought. He began to realize that with such an incredible ring and his new assessment ability, he was definitely not a pathetic G-class. The guy decided it was time to visit the Center of Paranormal Phenomena. The story continues at the Center of Paranormal Activity, where the girl stood at the counter and explained to the main character that the estimation error was less than 1% and asked if he really wanted to undergo revaluation. The hero agrees. The girl notes that the first test is paid for by the state, and subsequent ones must be paid for by those who take the test. Yu Ilshin must pay 1,580,000 won. The hero was shocked by the price he heard. Being in shock for some time, the girl asks the hero to hurry up, because he is not the only one standing in line. The guy apologized and said he would come back next time. Thinking that his limit was at best F class, the guy left. He should have known the prices better. This ring inspired him too much. I just had to keep writing novellas, I went completely crazy. But by the way, there are quite a lot of people here, the hero noted. He needed to collect his thoughts as soon as possible and write something and send it to his curator. Having activated the Eye of God, I decided to see if there was anything interesting here, and if it worked on people. Focusing on some guy, his name was Pak XX, 30 years old. Suffered from hemorrhoids. Then he turned his gaze to the pregnant girl. Kim XX, 24 years old, pregnant. Ken XX, male, 41 years old, impotent. The guy laughed at him, because he didn't envy him. He saw Miri's dream. The Eye of God showed her name in full, unlike others. The note said she was depressed. Probably from the results of past tests, where her level was B+. The guy was surprised that he only saw her name in full. The Eye of God showed emotion for the first time. The hero began to approach the girl. He was overwhelmed with thoughts that he needed to stop and that he was going crazy. But interest took over. The hero frightenedly reached out to the girl, not knowing what to say. He apologized for the question and asked how she felt. Song Miri turned around with an irritated look and the thought that he was probably some kind of pervert. She began to accumulate lightning energy in her fist. Yu Ilshin asked not to be considered rude. At the same time, he himself understood that she clearly took him for a pervert, greedy for little schoolgirls. I'm not some strange guy, really, he said. He urgently needed to come up with something. At that time, the girl was increasingly filled with anger. Her eyes filled with blue, and lightning rained in her fists. A bell rang from Yu Ilshin's bag. He reached into his bag and apologized to her. On the phone he saw a call from a demonic spawn. After apologizing to the girl that he needed to answer the call, the guy ran towards the exit. Walking down the street and talking on the phone, he was asked to meet his niece. He asks where he can meet her. On the other end of the phone there was indignation that he became cheerful at the mere mention of money, and they accused him of being an unemployed lazy person. But does his love for money make him an unemployed lazy man? Okay, I got it, stop it, I'll wait for you without delay, Yu Ilshin said while standing on the street not far from the bus stop. The hero, with relief and a heavy sigh, hung up the call and put the phone back in his bag, simultaneously thinking about how meticulous his sister is, and that he sympathizes with her future husband. Well, he didn't pass the assessment, at least he wasn't kicked out in disgrace. Yu Ilshin met his niece. They sat on a bench in the park, and the hero kept admiring his niece, how cute she was, how his sister, an evil demon in the flesh, could give life to such an angel. The nephew asked his uncle what the dark past was. Dark past? The hero thought with shame and fear, remembering that girl. Covering her face with her hands, she began to tell her niece that an incident happened today. The girl asked what the incident was. The hero fought the desire to touch his chubby cheeks. But he couldn't resist, and still took hold of her cute and plump cheeks. What a cutie she is. The niece was very angry with her uncle, because she said to stop touching her face. With a scream and hatred she turned to Yu Ilshin. He, in turn, apologized and promised that this would not happen again. Although the forbidden fruit was sweet, he still understood that if she was upset, it would be for at least an hour. The hero was thinking about how to cheer up the girl. Suddenly the eye of God turned on and began to analyze the niece. The note stated that the girl wanted a chocolate ice cream cone. Then he realized how he could cheer her up. Although it was not entirely honest, it was still a working method. Yu Ilshin offered his niece a chocolate, sweet, delicious chocolate ice cream cone that would melt so tenderly in her mouth. The girl was already drooling. Her uncle described so colorfully what she wanted. The story moves to an ice cream parlor. A pleasant, sweet girl greeted the visitors. Throwing the coins out of his pocket, the hero wanted to order 2 chocolate ice creams, but realized that there was only enough for one. The girl, looking strangely at the coins on the counter, asked to wait a little. Starting to greedily fill the cone with ice cream. The guy was perplexed. Was this really discrimination because he paid with coins? After all, this ice cream is not even for him, but for a child who will become the most beautiful creature in history. It dawned on the guy that he has his own remote control, called the index finger of God, which can affect electrical appliances. He pointed his finger at the ice cream machine as it began pouring a mountain of ice cream into the cone. The hero looked at this with a grin, whether he really felt sorry or not. Returning to the park, the girl savored chocolate ice cream. The uncle asked his niece to try it, but she refused and continued to greedily and deliciously eat the ice cream herself. They sat in the park. The girl enjoyed ice cream, and the hero enjoyed a calm day, admiring the sunset. Strange words began to come from the phone, similar to a warning. The guy, puzzled, reached into his bag for his phone. Taking out the phone, it was written that the title of Cruel Killer had been activated, and as a result, the battle luck of the unknown god increased incredibly. O one who walks the path of the greatest evil, let me absorb the difficulties that you are experiencing and become a true demonic deity, said a strange voice. It is not clear from where. The hero turned around and tried to understand where this voice was coming from. Warnings began to be heard from everywhere, and the girl's ice cream fell on the road. Looking at the sky, they saw a hole in the sky, from where eyes glowed with a bright red light. It turned out to be a thorny bull. The story moves to the moment and the brave Song Miri went against the bull alone. Yu Ilshin was scared. He tried to protect and calm his niece. After analyzing the thorny bull, he learned that its motives were to ascend by consuming the nameless god. And now the plot takes place on the bridge, where the hero is trying to realize that he almost died, and that he, his niece, a little cute girl, and all because of him, because the nameless god is his name in the game Creator of Gods, and it means that the monster came for him, because this cannot be a mere coincidence. And after the death of the bull, a message appeared. You have surpassed the limits of your body. Brutal Assassin has been increased by 1 level. As a reward, you can purchase any low-grade god right from the store for free. However, only the exclusive rights of the demonic god are available to you, the message said. Raising his hand, which contained the phone, the hero was about to throw it away, but then the inscription appeared on it, Saint. The main character stood on the bridge, perplexed as to what a saint meant. This story begins in a new place for the plot. 2 flies of similar people stand guard at the entrance to the cave. They were attacked by ants. They pray to the nameless god for help, so that he will spare them. The malicious ants attacked them with fury. They killed 2 guards and headed towards the cave. In the Mushka cave, a similar girl stands in front of an altar on which candles are burning. She is scared. She heard a roar and with fear in her eyes looks towards the entrance to the cave. A whole army entered the cave. They came for the holy maiden of the Black Tribe. She could not escape from the soldiers of the great empire. Our main character received a message asking if he would like to save this little creature who was desperately praying to him. A memory flashed through his head of how he and his niece were attacked by a thorny bull. He was sure that this little creature looked just like him at that moment, scared to the bone. The furious ant appealed to the holy maiden of the Black Tribe to accept with pride the fact that you will become a tribute to His Majesty the Emperor. But Ilshin, aka the Nameless God, destroyed an entire army with his pressure, thereby saving the holy maiden of the Black Tribe. The Holy Virgin prays to the Nameless God to tell her his real name. His name is Ilshin. The hero pointed out. The Holy Virgin worships you. Ilshin, the great god who saved her worthless life. The hero was surprised that he was worshipped. Ilshin received the title of Good God, Merciful Savior. At the moment, you have the titles of both a good and an evil god, it was written in the message. Due to the effect of receiving the title of Good God, Ilshin's karma was changed to neutral. As a bonus for receiving the title, the hero received 100,000 gold coins. In total, he got 108,700 coins. Having opened the catalog, the hero began to look through so that he could buy something like this. He could finally afford something. First of all, the hero bought the blessing of the god of growth for 1,000 coins. This skill dropped from the phone in the form of a bottle of liquid. After analyzing the object with the help of the Eye of God, he received a description, namely, this is a bodily fluid that was spilled during the training of a constant seeker of truth, and was sealed in a vessel. Its special property is that mortals who take the potion will develop their potential to the limit. The more you drink, the better. The hero was confused by the inscription bodily fluids, and he lost the desire to buy more of it. After drinking the liquid from the bottle, the hero did not feel anything. Ilshin was outraged. It was an ordinary energy drink. After reading the description again, he saw that it was noted that the more you drink, the better. After drinking a considerable number of bottles there was still no effect. The hero fell. Assimilation of gods increased. Ilshin's abilities have been enhanced. He woke up at home with a terrible pain in his head. It was not clear when he managed to return home. Red ants were crawling all over his body and bed. The hero took the phone. Hearing a hiss, he looked towards the source of the sound. Ilshin froze. He was surprised at how so many ants ended up in his apartment. There was a message on the phone, thanks to the hero titles, the God Creator's battlefield has been improved. Frightened and sleepy, the hero was amazed at the number of ants and headed towards the door. As luck would have it, at that very moment the lock did not open. The ants began to bite the hero. He decided to jump out the window. He thought that it was only the 3rd floor, it was unlikely that he would die from this. But the window didn't break. The hero simply hit his face on the glass. Realizing that the guy was trapped, he was filled with anger. Directing all his strength against the ants, he began to confront them. The ants looked with open eyes at how Ilshin was able to destroy the general. They did not believe in it. The arrow ants took positions and loaded their bows with flaming arrows and launched them towards the nameless god. The ants gloated, "Well, do you like it, nameless monster? This is the power of the great empire." The ants were full of motivation and ambition to kill the so-called monster. They wanted to cut off his head and present it to His Majesty the Emperor. The hero couldn't breathe. He looked up and saw bug spray. Only His Majesty the ant wanted to tell the good news. How a hero burned everything and everyone to the ground. The nameless god was enveloped in bright flames, his body did not move. He didn't want to die like this. There was a message on the phone: a gift or favor from a high-grade evil god can be obtained at your request. Will you accept the gift of the great god? Ilshin pressed yes. And he was enveloped in a bright, red light, which originated from the index finger. The action takes place on empty. Powerful flashes of lightning come from the mountain. It was Miri's dream. She was trying to awaken the very power that had allowed her to kill the thorny bull. Her attempts were in vain. The helmet was useless. The girl was planning some kind of revenge, but for this she needed strength. The question was what kind of revenge. Then the sixth sense began to play. Song Miri felt that someone was in trouble. Our main character, Yu Ilshin, was in trouble. He was in a burning apartment, exhausted, trying to somehow get out, using the ability received from a silent nightmare, but nothing helped. Even the god's crushing index finger was useless. The hero lay on the floor, shrouded in smoke and bright flames of fire. Is he really going to die like this? Then Song Miri arrived to help our hero and knocked out the wall. The hero's Eye of God was activated. It showed that the girl was in a state of delight. The action moves to the hospital, where Yu Ilshin's sister and her daughter came to see him. The niece doubted that this was really her uncle, lying on the bed covered in bandages. She asked him questions, asked him to name the password, to which the hero replied, "Your evil mommy is a chubby and farting Ajuma puppy." After this, the niece was convinced that it was her uncle. The niece sat down next to her uncle, hugged him tightly and asked him not to hurt himself anymore if he died, and she had no one to play with, but the hero was already much better, thanks to the cutie Song Yun, who came to visit him. The sister could not stand it and was angry with her brother. Perhaps she was too cruel to the victim, but she did not consider him a victim, because it was she who had to clean up the garbage in the apartment after him, so he also called her a farting Ajuma. While the sister was screaming at her brother, the girl began to cry. Someone knocked on the door. While the brother and sister were sorting things out among themselves, small and cute Song Yun went to open the door to the ward. But there was nothing except a large bouquet of flowers. On the bouquet there was a bow on which they wished Yu Ilshin a speedy recovery. The hero assumed that it was from the manager. At this time, in front of the hospital, Song Miri stood on the roof. She realized that when the thorny bull was defeated and when she carried him to the hospital, she felt a power that she had never felt before. She's been watching him for 4 days, but she still doesn't understand what this guy has that allows her to exceed her limits. Then for a moment she felt like an investigator and decided that it would be better to leave before she was caught. Just as she was about to leave, she noticed something in Ilshin's window. He was digging for something under the blanket and was very angry. The girl was surprised. Parallel to how our hero was in the hospital, in the other world, the holy maiden of the tribe stood opposite the altar. Holding a polygonal sphere, she wanted to do something, to which her tribe did not agree. This was a treasure that had been passed down in the tribe for generations. She wanted to give this treasure to Yu Ilshin, the god who saved their tribe from the army of the empire. She believed that if they gave away the most valuable thing they had, he would definitely forgive their sins. Yu Ilshin, taking out his phone from the notification, began to get angry. He thought that it was the ants that were bothering him again. He was full of anger and the desire to kill them. He was already the victim, and the ants still didn't want to leave him alone. It was a message from the tribe. The saint and 101 followers worshipped Yu Ilshin. The faithful prayed to accept the offering they had prepared in tribute to the nameless god. The hero was faced with the question of whether to accept him. All in thoughts that this could be, such tributes are done only to very important people. He had doubts whether he was really that good. He accepted the gift from the tribe. The tribute flew out of the phone and landed in the hero's hands. Having analyzed it with the eye of God, he learned that this is the fruit of the world tree, one of the 7 fruits that the world tree, Yggdrasil, left behind. It was also stated that it increases stamina, and the hero was hooked. Throwing the fruit of the tree into his mouth and swallowing. The hero began to experience something strange. By the way, the girl was still watching the guy, his eyes widened from misunderstanding what was happening to him. Having swallowed the fruit of the tree that the tribe gave him, the hero began to spit as much as he could. It was salty, spicy, and bitter at the same time. But it still bore fruit. All the bandages fell off the hero, and his wounds healed on their own. This was also noticed by a girl standing on the roof opposite the hospital. She was perplexed, because he was just covered in burns, from head to toe. Who is he? The girl wondered. Looking at the phone, a new feature was activated, God's blessings. He could bestow blessings by accepting the offerings of his believers. Looking around, the hero decided to give them sugar, because they are ants. At this time, in the other world, the tribe was upset that they presented the treasure to the god, but received nothing in return, when suddenly something began to descend from the sky. At first they thought it was snow, but after tasting it they were delighted. In addition to this, the wounded began to be healed. The blind began to see again, and those who had no limbs grew them. God blessed them with a miracle. They thanked the Almighty and merciful Lord Ilshin. Having collected 101 true believers, the heroes received 101 faith points. In total, he had 1,101 faith points. Hero, I can't even imagine that a bag of sugar would have such an effect on them. 1 faith point was equal to 100 coins. The hero, to some extent, even found them cute. Ilshin left the hospital and headed to the market. This is the place where a lot of things happened, from banal accusations that they paid too little for the goods, announcements about buying goods at the highest prices, that they even bought from hermits. Until fights for no reason, out of the blue. The hero, thinking that it was too dangerous here, decided that he needed to find normal places where people like him could sell items. Having entered some alley, the guy saw a small store. It was a quiet place, and it looked normal, so he headed directly to the store itself. Entering the store, he was greeted by a pleasant-looking girl with glasses. This was her humble hedge stall. The hero greeted the girl back and said that he had come to sell a few items. The worker suggested that the guy was probably a hunter, but no, although his abilities awakened, he never received a hunter's license. The girl asked to wait, starting to fiddle around under the counter. Having given some form, she indicated where to sit and asked me to fill it out carefully. The form asked where the items were from. The hero was puzzled as to what to write. He couldn't write that he received items for killing ants in a mobile game. And all this is due to the renovation of the apartment. While Ilshin was filling out the form, a group of unknown people entered the stall. They came to sell a couple of high-end items. The hero sat nervously and tried not to look in their direction, because these guys were muscular. Although the eye of God said that their muscles were weak, you couldn't tell by looking at them. The leader of this group said that he heard that things were not going well at the store, so he brought a couple of good items. The girl behind the counter was grateful to the man. The hero sat nervously and tried not to look, but more than once he crossed glances with those guys. At that moment, the leader took out a set of mithril armor from the case. The girl was delighted. The man noted that he had to work hard to get it. Enchantment was applied to it. The action time remained 4 hours, 9 minutes and 32 seconds. He realized that it was a fake. The girl, studying the items, said that this armor contained a huge amount of mana. The leader emphasized that their items are always famous for their quality. But our hero fundamentally disagreed with this. The guys named the amount they were willing to sell for, 3 million won in cash. The girl, taking another quick glance at the armor, asked to wait while she wanted to go get the money. Here the hero took all his fear into his fist and jumped up with an objection. This item is fake. He was filled with thoughts that this was a rash act, and that he shouldn't have minded his own business, but he didn't show it. The thug took him by the t-shirt and lifted him up, justifying it by saying that the guy was not telling the truth, thereby hinting that he shouldn't have minded his own business. All three looked at him with obvious aggression and a request to clarify their suspicions. The hero pointed the god's crushing index finger at the armor as it turned into a pile of scrap metal. Everyone stood and couldn't believe their eyes. The thug raised his fist, wanting to hit the main character in the face, but the main character shouted at him to stop. And he himself bowed and offered his deepest apologies, addressing the hero as a high-class hunter, and asked to allow them to leave. They left, and the hero did not understand why he called him a high-class hunter. The girl behind the counter thanked him for his help and suggested that our hero was a great hermit. Hermits are those who hide among people. They chose an ordinary life instead of constant treasure hunts. The girl remembered that Ilshin wanted to sell a couple of items. He took out a ring and gave it to the girl. After briefly looking at the ring, she said that even if she overpaid, it was still a D-class item. Although the fake armor had a large amount of mana, namely 560 points. The god's eye analyzed the ring and indicated that it would be better if it were given to Song Miri, who is located nearby, to you Ilshin. This was the Lightning Empress. The chapter's story begins with Dream Miri, who was wearing dark clothes, a mask and a cap. Most likely she was spying on you Ilshin. She was standing around the corner of the store where the guy was. She was confused by the fact that the hero was cured so quickly. Could this really be the effect of a high-class healing potion? He's only G-class, where does he get a high-class potion from? She suspected he was hiding something. After finding out her identity, he was instantly cured. He can definitely help her surpass the limits of her body. Now she has definitely become a person who spies on other people. If her sister finds out about this, she will be in trouble. A voice came from behind. It was you Ilshin. He turned to the Empress, that is, Song Miri. It was inappropriate for her to be here, because he had a gift for her. The story takes place on the roof of a tower. Song Miri stood there, and three other people stood on a hill. A man with glasses stood behind a laptop. He called her result of 7,000 mana points an outstanding result even among A classes. The ring helped Sun Miri surpass the result of B class. She began to remember how you Ilshin gave her this ring. He took out the ring and placed it in Song Miri's hands and asked her to take it as a sign of his gratitude, saying that it would help her. Having given the ring, the hero disappeared into the crowd, and the girl stood in shame, holding the ring in her hands. He was petrified with surprise and shame. But she was more surprised that he just gave away the ring, which greatly increased her strength. The man standing above applauded, calling the result incredible. The girl standing next to her told me not to be arrogant there in turn. She is still only A class. The red-haired guy noticed that he couldn't wait to work with her, offering to somehow clear a couple of dungeons. Song Miri agreed hesitantly. In Song Miri's head, her sister's voice began to be heard. If she gets in her way with her worthless revenge, let him know, she won't just leave it like that. Song Miri apologized to her sister. She will have to disobey her. If you Ilshin helps her, revenge will no longer be just a stupid dream. The hero has a dream. Again Ants, an unknown creature behind the screen, ordered General Kamakiri to carry out Jim's order. Having led Jim's 5 million army, he ordered the destruction of the monster ruling over the savages of the Black Tribe. They already lost 100,000 warriors of Hibiscus and Kim. In the background of the ant in the robe was a huge army, ready for battle. They addressed the representative of the 10 blades of the Emperor. The hero woke up in a cold sweat. It was a dream again. Analyzing the past events, the hero came to the conclusion that this was definitely not an ordinary dream, like the last one. He almost died from 100,000 of these creatures, and now there are 50 times more of them. The hero did not understand what to do. A strange message came to the hero's phone asking if he wanted power. The caller's name was a silent nightmare. The guy thought maybe someone was making fun of him. The hero answered this strange man, if it was a man. He asked if he was a pervert. Immature and pathetic god, sacrifice 100 people of your race, especially people of the same blood as you. If you do this. This message came to Ilshin. The guy was about to block this subscriber when the blind eye of God was activated. The hero began to plunge into the state of all-seeing. He saw an ant wearing a robe. He introduced himself as General Kamikiri and began to threaten that he would tear out the guy's eyes, sever his neck and present his head to the great emperor. The hero has already seen him in a dream. A timer has appeared. The timer was counting down, there were about 4 days left. A message appeared in the game, the saint and 101 believers are trembling in fear because of the approaching army of the empire. The hero decided that this time he needed to prepare. Ilshin tried to analyze himself in front of the mirror using the eye of God. It didn't work out the first time. Everything that the eye of God pointed out when calling the hero of the sucker a flower. The guy, sitting on the bed in the room, bought everything he needed from God's store. He bought God's judgmental middle finger. It sounds cool, but in reality it turned out to be a simple lighter. Although they wrote that if you cross it with the condemning middle finger of God, you will have an excellent skill. Ilshin was outraged that he had been deceived again. He should have thrown the phone into the river after all. After all, because of him, he then found himself in a dangerous situation. It was because of him that his apartment was all mutilated, and there was also a hole in the wall. The guy received a message from the great and all-powerful bastard. It was the customer. A whole week had passed since the last work was sent. The customer understood that the hero had some circumstances, but there were also circumstances at work. It won't be good if Ilshin misses the delivery deadline again. Moreover, the hero has already received payment in advance. The hero began to make excuses that he was now faced with a lot of problems, and there was no time to finish the work. Having decided that he needs a lot of energy drinks, the hero will have to work for 20 people at once. While the hero worked all night, his God-maker assimilation was increased from 5 to 10%. Ilshin's special right was strengthened. The title of Merciful Savior has been activated. After working all night, the hero finally finished. All he had to do was send it to the customer. Song Miri found herself not far from Ilshin's house. She bought a cake and headed towards his house. She wanted to make a good impression of herself, so he definitely wouldn't refuse her. Nervously, the girl went up to Ilshin's floor and was already standing in front of his door, holding her finger on the bell. While the exhausted hero was already sleeping on the table opposite the laptop, muttering something under his breath. The girl stood opposite the door. She called several times, but no one answered the door. Song Miri thought that the hero was not at home. Song Miri pulled the door handle and it opened. Apparently the hero forgot to lock it. She looked into the apartment. Except for the hole in the wall, there was no one. The hero was again late for a meeting with the customer. The customer has already written to Ilshin asking whether he is going to hand over the work. Here the hero throws a stack of paper on the table. The customer was surprised by such a quantity of material. The story is transferred to some remote place, similar to some kind of warehouse. The hero is unconscious, tied up, sitting on a chair. 3 guys stand around him. They grinned at the fact that the guy managed to sleep in such a situation, as if he had been working all night, although he had. Ilshin woke up abruptly with a strange expression on his face and his tongue sticking out. He was talking to some ant and asked for a double portion of chuck flap steak. The guy, raising his head, saw that his kidnappers had run away to a safe distance from fear. Ilshin himself did not understand what was happening. He assumed that he had been kidnapped, but why should he be kidnapped and where was he even located? The guy in the red shirt spoke while holding a flame in his hand. He voiced that it was impossible to sleep even in such a situation. At this time, the blind eye of the god showed that the man was using an insignificantly weak flame. The other two guys say that they have a weak physique. The hero identified them. These were the scammers he met in that shop. The guys realized that Yu Ilshin recognized them. They addressed him by name. It was not clear how they knew his name. The hero asked what they wanted. They wanted compensation for the damage caused earlier. After all, the hero got involved in something that was not his own business and thereby ruined their business. They mocked him and said that, fortunately for the hero, they accepted card payments. Tensely, Ilshin noticed that he had just lost his phone somewhere. One of the guys said that he was the one who took it, holding it in his hand. The guy in the cap looked at the phone and noticed a strange timer. He asked the hero what it was. Ilshin, realizing what was about to happen, shouted that they should untie him immediately, otherwise it would be very bad for all of them. The guy with fire laughed at the hero, as if he had completely lost his fear, but at that time his accomplice, straight from the phone, was attacked by a flock of ants. They began to envelop him from head to toe, while he screamed and begged for help. Until his body was reduced to atoms, leaving only his phone, which fell to the floor. The other two wondered what it was and what kind of bugs they were. They thought that Yu Ilshin's ability was to control bugs, noting that this was indeed unusual. The ants began to look more like beetles than the old ants. A whole army of them is white. The guy with the fire turned all his power against them, assuring himself that he could burn them all. The entire warehouse was in ash. He decided it was all over. He suggested calculating how much the hero owes the two of them for killing his younger brother. Then the guy with the fire fell flat on the floor. The hero and another guy didn't understand anything. It turned out to be ants. They catapulted some kind of magical stone at that guy, which emanated magic. The ant general ordered them to charge the catapults, while the thug began to run away in tears, fear and cries for help. He ran to the door and started trying to open it. The door didn't open. Just like when Yu Ilshin was locked in his apartment. The thug was still screaming for help, and the hero was screaming for him to untie him. The general of the ant army gave the command to fire. Hundreds of stones flew towards the thug. It is unlikely that he survived. Even a giant flame could not destroy this army. Will the hero be able to get out alive? If the hero knew that these guys would be so strong, maybe then something would have changed, and it would have been different. But it all started because of the game that brought him here. The army general addressed the hero as an evil god and notified him that all his subordinates had been killed. The hero did not imagine his death this way, and the ant amused himself that now he would kill the hero and make him an edible snack for His Majesty the Emperor. There was a message on the phone that some effect had been activated and lightning had struck a room filled with ants. The ants were angry. They did not understand who dared to attack the army of Her and His Majesty. They ordered the subordinate of the evil god, who was hiding, to show himself. It was the Empress of Lightning, in all her glory. The story continues in an unknown location. It looked like an abandoned warehouse. The bound hero sits on a chair. An entire army of ants was about to chop him into pieces, but Dream Miri, the Empress of Lightning, came to his aid. The general reproached the girl that she did not dare to attack the army of His Majesty the Emperor. Even her master did not deign to fight personally. The hero encouraged Dream Miri, "Burn these creatures to the ground," he shouted. The ants were surprised at how strong the girl was. They wondered where the evil god got such a strong follower. This evil god became the most terrible disaster that the empire faced throughout its existence. One of the beetles introduced himself as Kamakiri. He threatened to die here and now and take one of the followers of the evil god with him. The girl continued to destroy insects. She was amazed at their number and the tenacity with which they continued to try to do something. The servants of the general of the army of the empire assured him that he must escape. The general himself closed himself off and addressed someone in his head. Thousands of blades that would tear space itself apart, he, like a servant, asked someone to convey incredible power. The general seemed to be in a trance. In front of him stood a wall on which there were many eyes, of different sizes and shapes. The voice asked what sacrifice the general had prepared for him. To which he said that he would give the lives of his soldiers as a gift. "So be it," answered the voice. The general swung his blade-like paw, thereby killing all his subordinates. The heroes were thrown back. They did not understand why he killed the entire army. But the general was overwhelmed with strength and the desire to carry out the order of the emperor. The eye of God showed that the general of the empire had sacrificed the greatest army to his god. Aims to destroy the follower of the evil god. Aiming at Song Miri, the general jumped in her direction, threatening to bow his insignificant head on his face for disrespecting the great emperor. The ant was already running with his mouth open towards Dream Miri, to which the girl used a quick lightning storm. The lightning storm split in two. The general was still aimed at the girl and moved in her direction. He waved his paw. She fell near Yu Ilshan's feet. The general made her pay with her life for insulting the great emperor. The ant went to the evil god of the black tribe. He wants him to pay with his worthless life too. The hero was downcast. You could see how he was filled with rage of revenge and regret that because of him the lightning empress died. An inscription appeared. The rite given by the silent nightmare shows a nightmare from the future. What the hero saw is a nightmare that has not yet happened. But it is also a destiny that can happen. A hero is a being who can change the destinies of mortals. God's right offered Ilshan to change the fate of a mortal with his help for 100,000 of God's coins. The hero, without thinking twice, answered, yes. Time returned to the point when the empress stood eye to eye with the general, and he was heading in her direction. She understood that this beetle was stronger than the others, that she had to be careful, because she could die. Yu Ilshan throws off the chains, takes Song Miri by the collar and pulls her back. He stood next to her. He asked if she was okay. The girl herself realized that this man. The beetle ran at the hero screaming for him to die. But the hero showed God's condemning middle finger. The building began to glow with a bright flame of fire. All the windows were broken, and everything inside was engulfed in flames and smoke. The bug general was incinerated for the glory of the great emperor. Song Miri looked at Yu Ilshan with admiration for him to become her master. The story continues in the hero's apartment. Dream Miri, holding a construction tool called a trowel in her hands, asked to leave it to her, calling the hero a master. The hero began to remember the moment when he defeated the general. Twisting the knife left behind by the beetle in his hands, the guy thought about how to use it. While Song Miri, standing behind him, looked at him in love and admiration. The girl fell to her knees, having first asked if he was a hermit. The hero thought that she was somehow strange. On her knees, she asked to make her stronger. He promised to do whatever he ordered. She was ready for anything, even though it would be hard. The hero had a bad feeling. He turned to the lightning empress, to which the girl interrupted him, calling him a master and asking him to call her Miri. The hero noted that he did not say that he would become her master. He asked how long Song Miri planned to stay at his house. To which she said until he teaches her. The hero tried to explain that he was an ordinary G-class, not understanding why the girl clung to him so much. To which she showed the ring that he gave her, which made her stronger. The hero still denied everything, and about the ring he said that he was just lucky to find it, that he understood her desire to become stronger. The girl began to beg to give her at least a chance. After some time, the girl reports that she is finished. Now at least it looks like a normal bed. The hero was very surprised by Song Miri's skills. Hearing some kind of roar, the hero went to the window asking if it was thunder, if it meant it would rain. The girl said it wasn't raining and she was a little hungry. Ilshin said that Song Miri had done a good job and asked to be allowed to treat her to lunch. The girl asked for noodles with black bean sauce. A call came to the girl's phone, "We'll have to have lunch next time." The hero acquired the blessing of the god of growth and handed the dream to Miri so that she could take it with her. The girl was surprised at how he did it, comparing the hero with the hunter, Kong Wu. The hero had no idea who he was and asked him to take this potion with him and drink it, it would help her. She thanked the master, claiming that she would cherish every sip, although the bottle itself was small. Climbing onto the window. Jumped out the window and said that she would be back soon. Judging by the hero's face, this did not make him very happy. But now Ilshin will have to eat alone. The guy went to some small restaurant, received an order, and ate it deliciously. The TV in the restaurant was turned on, and they started showing urgent news that an S-class monster, the Drake, had emerged from a rift during the parliamentary conference. The presenter thanked the hunter, who quickly arrived on the scene, but it seems that all she can do is buy time for people to escape. The hunter, who is currently fighting against the Drake, the Lightning Empress, is A-class. Obviously, she is no match for the S-class monster. The Hunters Association made a request for speedy reinforcements. The presenter finished speaking by saying that they would show the scene of events in real time. The hero was worried about Dream Miri, since an S-class monster is dangerous. The story moves to the scene where the Lightning Empress, fighting a monster, delays it so that people can escape as quickly as possible. The Empress began to doubt herself. She was surprised by the fact that it turned out to be an S-class monster. She was not sure that she could defeat him alone, moreover, if her sister found out. The girl continued to fight the monster, although she was worried about various thoughts connected with her sister, or rather with her words, so that she would not get in the way, that she would not leave it like that. Everyone began to rejoice, thinking that the monster was defeated. While reporting live, the reporter called Song Miri the heroine who again works miracles by defeating the Drake. People encouraged the girl. They shouted how cool she was, the Lightning Empress, that she could do it. But, no such luck. Hiding in a cloud of dust, everyone thought that the monster was dead. Out of nowhere, a huge tentacle will attack the Empress. The girl fell to the floor and suspects that she did not become stronger. In her head again, her sister's voice was telling her not to be arrogant, that Song Miri was a pathetic B-class. The Drake is still alive, but the Empress's condition leaves much to be desired. Everyone watched in fear as the monster began to attack people. Everyone hoped that everything was fine with the Empress. But then Miri's dream stands behind the monster. She drank the potion that Ilshin gave her. It gave her strength. The story continues at the scene where Dream Miri fights against a monster. She sent a lightning storm at him. In the restaurant where the hero was sitting, everyone was watching TV with interest. People were amazed at the Empress's power, they could not even imagine it. The hero wondered in surprise why she was asking to become her master when she herself was so strong. The presenter continued to report that the A-class hunter, the Lightning Empress, defeats the S-class monster Drake. Song Miri is interviewed live. She was asked what the secret of her growth was, how she defeated the Drake, because just recently, you beat a lower class. The girl turned to the master live and said that it was all thanks to the potion he gave. Son Miri and Ilshin are sitting at his house. Ilshin sitting on the phone, watching the recording of the broadcast. The video had 2 million views, and the culprit of all this is sitting at his house and eating jjajangmyeon. Song Miri said that it was incredibly delicious and thanked the hero for buying her something to eat. It was probably time for the girl to go home, her family might be worried. But she didn't have anyone who cared about her. The hero was surprised. It couldn't be that there were parents who weren't worried about such a good daughter. But her parents died when the dragon of the underworld appeared. the dragon of the underworld. The best hunters from all over the world united and barely managed to defeat him. It was a serious incident that took the lives of millions of people. The hero closed his mouth, realizing that he could say too much. Since the girl used too much energy, he offered to eat his dish too. Song Miri happily agreed to his proposal. The hero's phone message indicated that he had reached the target's favor and level of trust. If the target says the key phrase, he will become your faithful follower. The key phrase for getting a believer is, "I believe you Ilshin Nim." Hiroa noticed that it was just like in all those second-rate novels that he wrote. It turns out that he will be able to get even more coins. The hero could not predict and the next ant invasion would occur. Therefore, the more God's coins, the better. The hero asked Miri Ssy if she could fulfill his request. The girl was ready to do whatever the hero wanted. He asked me to repeat after him what he would say now. She agreed. The guy said the key phrase to get a believer, then he thought that this was probably too much. He apologized to her, because it was true, it was strange. The girl said she believed him. "I believe you Ilshin Nim," said Miri Ssy. And the guy received a notification on his phone that he had received a new follower. Song Miri is his first follower on Earth. The total number of followers is 1102. But what about the coins? The hero received the transfer skill. The hero can borrow the skills of his followers. But they didn't give me any coins. The hero is not particularly happy with this, because he expected to receive coins. The girl watched the master and did not understand why he behaved this way. Then some kind of portal opened behind the girl's back. Some bugs that looked like grasshoppers came out of there. They began to say, "This man, the evil god of the black tribe, give the arrogant man the position of a deity. His Majesty the Emperor made an excellent decision. His Majesty said that this evil god would play a huge role in the Great War." Well, then they decided to let our worthless hero understand how generous their emperor is. The hero did not notice how envoys from the emperor arrived. And he decided to try the transfer skill. How does an explosion happen here? The neighbor opposite Ilshin's windows was outraged that the hero was constantly having incidents. And Song Miri was surprised that the guy could also use lightning storm. The hero will again have to spend a lot of money on repairs. At this time, one of the surviving envoys returned to report to the emperor about the death of his comrades. The emperor killed the surviving envoy because he had upset his majesty. The emperor ordered the head of this reckless and arrogant creature to be brought to him. The honor of the divine throne, his and the empire's, is at stake. The story moves to a small stadium where Song Miri is running in circles. The hero was surprised that she could run so fast without using skills. High-quality hunters are truly amazing. Song Miri asked if she should run more laps. Since she's already finished. He gave her a stamina potion and told her to rest. It was strange that for the hero it was just like an energy drink, when on a girl it works completely differently. The guy kept thinking about how smart it was to take her as a student. After all, he won't be able to teach her anything, just give her a potion. He told her to do squats, while he himself was wondering if he could use the eye of God to find out how best to do her. If you have watched up to this point, then I am very grateful to you, because this is where the video ends. If it's not difficult for you, then like this video and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to continue this story, then write in the comments. Thank you all, I love you all.